response now. Mr. Ndhlela, good evening to you and thank you very much for your time. How is the party handling or addressing this matter that has been put forward by Ms. Phadi?
Well, I think let's start with the genesis of what led to where we're at. Mary Phadi is a leader at the time who was appointed by the national officials and more so also by President Zuma. And she was entrusted with a role of setting up the structures within Mpumalanga and also being the party leader in the legislature. It's unfortunate that at the time, when the national officials wanted her to hand over the accounts of the legislature, that she totally refused to hand over the accounts. And the reason for the request to hand over the accounts is that as a party, we're putting in processes in place. We need to centralize all the accounts so as to ensure that we manage this organization professionally as part of professionalizing it. Now, there were certain reports that came through from Mpumalanga that not only on the issue of, the financial misconduct, if we should say, there were also other issues of, her attending meetings, wielding guns, backed by goons in these meetings, and intimidating people. This is also something that we should note, that at one point she was arrested, if people don't know. Mary Phadi was arrested. And the reason for her arrest was that, she had made certain comments that were such that she wanted to get certain people assassinated. And the police got a hold of this information. There was recordings, and she was locked in. I remember at one point, Mary Phadi called me because she was concerned that this was going to blow over into the media, and she wanted to know how she should handle it. I've got SMSs that can show that. So Mary Phadi must not be painted as a person who is innocent here. Mary Phadi, in actual fact, was given an opportunity to make representations to the national leadership, of which she totally, again, denied to do so. She was given an opportunity. She was given an opportunity in light of those transgressions and her being in defiance to then step down. She didn't want to step down.
All right.
And we took a decision as national officials and the president to then terminate and to recall her. That's when then she obviously went to court. Now, leading up to that, the deputy president, alongside other leaders of the party, was sent there to deal with this crisis, even prior to her being terminated. And the report came back with recommendations, and those recommendations pointed to all these other things I've just mentioned, and even other things which I don't want to touch or get into because, we're going through a process. And that report basically made a recommendation that she be terminated. And off the back of that, one thing that you should know is that as part of the analysis, the political analysis, the situational analysis in the province, the judge in this case with the team had to engage with two different factions, if you will, and hear both sides of the story. And to consolidate and to stabilize the organization in the province, that recommendation was made, and that's it, and that's why we're here.
You've painted a picture of the internal dynamics within the MK, but as things stand, there is a very serious allegation leveled against the deputy leader of the party, and this is a matter that the general public of South Africa are going to be concerned about and want to know whether the party is addressing it, given the state of gender-based violence in South Africa. And so it's a matter that cannot be downplayed. So I'm going to ask you again, is the party dealing and addressing this matter in relation to Dr. Hlophe allegedly having sexually harassed Ms. Phadi?
As you said it, this is a sensitive matter. And Mponto Sizwe and the leadership, we take such matters very, very seriously. And in light of that, it's sensitive both in terms of what you said, the challenges that we're faced with as a society, from a GBV perspective, but also sensitive politically, naturally, because as you said, this is the deputy president. So we need to look into that. We're taking this very seriously. Obviously, this is something that was brought forward off the back of what seemed to be a letter from her. I've never seen the actual letter or the confirmation that the president did receive this letter. You know, so one can also not confirm that it actually is a letter from her, even though she may say that this is what it is.
Well, she does state it.
Well,
for the record.
Well, I'm just saying
that
formally
it has been sent to.
No, formally from our end, we haven't received that letter, is what I'm saying. So we cannot be taking and responding to a letter that's just we've seen in social media. If that is the case, then we'll take this seriously. But I think going back to the seriousness of the issue, which we should not underplay, we take this matter very seriously, and we're going to look into it.
All right. That's that. I just want, so that it doesn't appear as though I'm her mouthpiece, I'd like for you to listen to her saying that she has addressed this matter to President Zuma, and let's have a listen.
It is an internal letter that I was sending to the president to say, President, I think whatever that is happening, it is the reason behind the messages that I received, and I had denied that the deputy president the opportunity to be able to speak to me further than the way he did.
Yeah.
And indeed, I could tell that it did not sit well with them.
The matter, Mr. Ndhlela, is quite public now. Has the party called Dr. Hlophe to allow him the time to take the party into his confidence about what actually happened and whether he did indeed send text messages that Ms. Phadi claims are in her possession right now?
Well, firstly, the Deputy President's position is very simple. And that is, there is no such messages that were sent. That's the first point. The second point is, even though that is the case, the DP will obviously take us into his confidence. This is something that has just, sort of blown up in the media. So we will then engage with the judge, at the right time. But as I said, we take this matter seriously. And that's what we need to focus on. But I think one of the things that we need to take into consideration here is that, we're trying to stabilize the organization as Mkhonto sees a leadership. We've got an organization here that needs to gear up for local government 2026 elections. We cannot have a situation where we have rogue elements of individuals who don't take instructions from leadership. And this is exactly what's happening with Mary here. Mary has been in defiance of the organization. You can't, when you're recalled or requested to hand over accounts, and think you're going to manage those accounts as though they're your own personal piggy bank.
Okay, can I stop you there for a moment?
It doesn't fly that way.
Okay,
what I think is important, go ahead.
You refer to her as a rogue element.
Yes, she is.
And part of what is happening to her, aren't you concerned? Because she seems to suggest that the trouble that she possibly faces in the party may now possibly be used as some kind of bargaining chip by the deputy leader of the party in order to get certain things out of her, and perhaps in that way she could possibly keep her position in Mpumalanga. Do you understand where this is going?
Yeah, I understand you're trying to draw parallels that don't exist. And that's exactly what you're trying to do here, unfortunately. This is what it is. We did say we're taking this matter very seriously. And that is a separate issue. Now let's separate the two. This matter has been ongoing for some time. She should have raised this issue at the time when she was asked to make recommendations, representations, which she did not. So I heard her at one point saying that the issue of the timing or whatever the case may be. No, we're saying, can you see where I'm going? It can also look as though it's opportunistic, is what I'm saying. But it does not negate the fact that this matter is a serious matter that we're taking as seriously and that it should receive the attention that it should.
Okay.
It's also important for you to understand here that what if, and maybe you may not be aware of this, as I've said, you dealt with a person that's also been in prison here, in jail, for a couple of days, for certain things. That in of itself should ask you and throw big question marks on the person's character. And the fact that, by the way, they didn't want to hand over their accounts. We're fully aware what's happening in those accounts. Naturally, as is the case, if it does lead and off the back of a process, because remember, she's still a member of the party. She's there off the back of Mkhonto ticket. So if the leadership is calling you or recalling you, you need to adhere to the instructions. In this case, she's in defiance. So she's rogue.
Talking about rogue elements in the party, because that's part of what has been painted of the MK party.
It's politics.
That it is a party of people who are, quote unquote, fugitives from justice, people who have been impeached. Yesterday, a different channel, ETV, had an interview with Janusz Walusz, the killer of Chris Hani. And he says the following words, and I quote, "I know Clive W. Lewis was visited by Jacob Zuma. I don't know what he wanted. It looked like he is going to help us somehow, but I didn't know why. And finally, nothing came out of it." You've spoken about a rogue element or rogue elements in the MK party. Here is a leader of your party who is said to have met with Clive W. Lewis. Has he taken the party into his confidence about why he would have met Chris Hani's killers in the first place?
I think let's start with the fact that you can quite honestly ask me about such a murderer. I find it insulting that, you today can bring this murderer that killed a leader such as Chris Hani, and then you want to ask me about a racist killer on this show? Are you really going to give him that platform? It's an insult, quite honestly. It's an insult.
No, it's
and
not.
I'm not interested in having a discussion about killers and
Why
murderers. Because they're a total insult. If you look at that interview, it's an insult that this man is even able to talk. It's a fact. It's an insult that this man can sit there and say, you yourself as a black person, Xoli, are not worthy of being in that chair. That's basically what he said.
Do you not think that South Africans deserve to know what the president, a former president of this country who now leads the MK party, wanted from these individuals and what resulted of that discussion?
I'm sure you'll understand when you're a president, there's some secrecy and certain oath that you need to take naturally. So the president doesn't have to explain himself if he doesn't need to. And it could be that there's sensitive issues that could maybe lead to other matters that are not required to come out, naturally so. So being a president is a very difficult position. It's a very difficult position because there are a lot of secrets that you have to keep, and there are a lot of things that you cannot say, naturally so, as is the case with any president globally. So for us to go and ask the president about what his meeting was with, there's so many other meetings that the president has had with many other people. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to now sit with you here and have a conversation about a racist killer that is actually a fugitive himself. If you want to know about fugitives from law, look at the man who was found with money in his couch that's loitering in the union buildings. That's a fugitive from the law, constitutional delinquent. That's who you should be asking me about when you talk about fugitives from the law, because they find every way possible to avoid the law.
Well, someone is going to say exactly what you were saying earlier, that this is politicking. They're going to say you are politicking because President Zuma, at the time that he was leader, he not only meets then with Clive W. Lewis, and as you say, certain things have got to be kept away from the public to avoid whatever repercussions. Under his presidency, Eugene de Kock is also let out of prison and is given a stipend while he lives in a safe house, guarded by members of the South African Police Service. Louis Liebenberg utters Jacob Zuma's name willy-nilly, even in court, and salutes MK party. Do you understand the significance of this and how it paints your party that you seek, to use your words, to professionalize? Why must South Africans take the MK party seriously if you're not going to take them into your confidence?
No, I think it's unfortunate that you want to use this platform of Mkhonto Wesizwe and us as a party with our president for us to respond to those questions. I think you need to go to the former liberation movement where he led as a president and ask them what happened then. Don't ask us. Don't ask Mkhonto Wesizwe. You can ask the former liberation movement with the leader who's a loiterer and a man found with money in the couch. That's who you should go and ask. Not Mkhonto Wesizwe. Mkhonto Wesizwe was never part of any of those engagements or discussions. I don't think there's any more for me to say to you.
All right, Mr. Ndhlela, we're going to have to leave the conversation there. And I guess South Africans will have to be left wondering why their taxpayers' money was being given to an apartheid murderer to be kept in a safe house. But we'll leave it there.
You can ask the former liberation movement,
okay,
called the ANC, why that happened, not Mkhonto Wesizwe. We are the incoming government. Wait for us to govern.
Nhlamulo Ndhlela, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Spokesperson of the MK party. Rachel Makura is standing by with your sports.